The snow fell in thick, wet flakes that December evening, the kind that clings to everything it touches. Thomas Bennett pulled his black coat tighter as he walked with his daughter, Maya, through the downtown bus station. At 42, Thomas had learned that life rarely followed the plan you made for it. He'd been a widower for 3 years now, raising his 6-year-old daughter alone, while running the family construction company his father had built. Maya, bundled in her bright pink jacket, her blonde hair already dusted with snow, skipped ahead despite the cold. "Stay close, sweetheart," Thomas called, his breath forming small clouds in the freezing air. They'd just come from dinner downtown, a rare treat between his long work hours and Maya's school schedule. The bus station was a shortcut to where they'd parked, though Thomas usually avoided it. Something about the place always felt sad to him, full of people going somewhere else, never quite home. That's when Maya stopped walking. She stood perfectly still, staring at something near the bench by the bus schedule board. Thomas followed her gaze and felt his heart constrict. A young woman sat hunched on the bench, her thin frame wrapped in what looked like a summer dress, completely inadequate for the weather. She couldn't have been more than 25. Her dark hair hung wet and tangled around her face. But what made Thomas's breath catch was the bundle she held so carefully against her chest. A baby, a tiny infant wrapped in what appeared to be a thin yellow blanket that was already soaked through with snow. "Dad," Maya said, her voice small and urgent. "Dad, she's freezing." Thomas knelt beside his daughter, his expensive suit pants pressing into the wet concrete. "I know, baby. Stay here for just a moment, okay?" He approached the bench slowly, not wanting to startle the young mother. Up close, he could see she was shivering violently, her lips tinged with blue. The baby in her arms couldn't have been more than a few months old, its tiny face barely visible in the inadequate wrapping. "Excuse me," Thomas said gently. "Are you all right? Do you need help?" The woman looked up at him, and Thomas saw fear flash across her face before resignation settled in. Her eyes were brown, exhausted, and held a depth of weariness that no one so young should carry. "We're fine," she said, but her voice shook with cold. "Just waiting for the next bus." "The next bus won't come for 3 hours," Thomas said, glancing at the schedule board. "Not on this line. Not this late on a Sunday." The woman's face crumpled slightly before she caught herself. She held the baby closer. "We'll manage." Maya had crept up beside Thomas, and before he could stop her, she was taking off her own jacket. "Here," she said, holding it out to the baby. "For the baby, please." "Maya, no, you'll freeze," Thomas started, but the woman's expression stopped him. She was looking at Maya with such raw emotion, such surprise that a child would offer help, that Thomas felt something shift inside him. He stood up, removing his own heavy coat. Underneath, he wore a suit jacket that would be enough to get him to the car. "Please," he said, "take this, for you, and my daughter's jacket for your baby. We're not far from our car." "I can't," the woman began. "You can," Thomas said firmly but kindly. "And you will, because that baby needs warmth and so do you. And because I have a 6-year-old daughter who would never forgive me if we left you here." The woman took the coat with shaking hands. Thomas helped her put it on, trying not to notice how her dress was torn at the shoulder, how she wore no shoes, only thin socks that were more whole than fabric. Maya carefully tucked her bright pink jacket around the baby, her small face serious with concentration. "What's your name?" Maya asked. "Catherine," the woman whispered. "Kat, and this is Emma. She's 4 months old. I'm Maya. That's my dad, Thomas. We just had pizza for dinner, the kind with extra cheese." She said it simply, as children do, unaware of how the mention of food made Kat's eyes fill with tears. Thomas made a decision. "Kat, I'm going to be very direct with you, because I think we both know you're in trouble. That baby isn't going to survive the night out here. Neither are you. I'm not going to ask you your story right now, but I am going to ask you to come with us, just to get warm, get some food, and figure out what comes next. No strings, no judgment, just basic human decency." "You don't know me," Kat said, her voice breaking. "I could be anyone. I could be dangerous." "You're a mother trying to protect her baby in the snow," Thomas said quietly. "That's all I need to know right now." The ride to Thomas's house was quiet. Kat sat in the back with Emma, Maya beside her, chattering about school and her favorite stuffed animals, and how her daddy made the best hot chocolate with real marshmallows. Thomas drove carefully through the snow, glancing in the rearview mirror at the young woman, who looked terrified and grateful in equal measure. His house was modest by CEO standards, a 3-bedroom home in a good neighborhood, comfortable but not ostentatious. Thomas had never cared much for showing off. The warmth hit them as soon as they entered, and Kat actually swayed on her feet. "When did you last eat?" Thomas asked, steadying her with a gentle hand on her elbow. 2 days, maybe. I've been feeding Emma. I'm still nursing, but I don't know if—" She trailed off, looking down at her daughter with such love and fear that Thomas had to look away. "Okay, first things first. Maya, can you show Kat where the bathroom is upstairs? There are clean towels in the closet. Kat, there's a robe hanging on the back of the door. Put your dress in the hamper and I'll wash it. I'll leave some of my late wife's clothes outside the door. You're about the same size." While Kat was upstairs, Thomas heated up leftover soup and made sandwiches. Maya helped, standing on her step stool by the counter, her face thoughtful. "Daddy," she said carefully, "is Kat like the people we see downtown sometimes? The ones with the signs?" Thomas paused in slicing bread. "She's someone who needs help right now. That's all that matters. But why doesn't she have a home?" "I don't know, sweetheart. Sometimes life is hard for people. Sometimes they have bad luck or they make mistakes. Or they just don't have anyone to help them when things go wrong. That's why it's important to help when we can." When Kat came back downstairs, she was wearing an old pair of Laura's jeans and a soft sweater, her hair still damp but clean. She'd wrapped Emma in a fresh towel, and the baby was sleeping peacefully. Thomas had never been so grateful that he'd kept his late wife's clothes. He'd planned to donate them eventually, but somehow never could bring himself to do it. Kat ate slowly at first, then with increasing hunger, as if her body suddenly remembered it needed sustenance. Thomas fed Emma with a bottle. He'd kept Maya's baby things in the attic while Kat ate, and he marveled at how this tiny human fit perfectly in his arms, how natural it felt despite the years since Maya had been this small. After dinner, after Maya had been tucked into bed with promises that Kat and Emma would still be there in the morning, Thomas and Kat sat in the living room. She'd finally stopped shivering. "You want to tell me what happened?" Thomas asked gently. "You don't have to, but sometimes it helps to say it out loud." Kat was quiet for a long time, Emma asleep against her chest. Then, slowly, the story came out. A boyfriend who'd seemed kind until she got pregnant. Violence that escalated until she fled. No family to turn to. Her parents had passed away years ago, and she'd been an only child. Friends had tried to help, but she'd been too ashamed to keep asking, too proud to admit how bad it had gotten. She'd been living in a shelter, but they'd had to leave when Emma got sick and disturbed the other residents with her crying. She'd been trying to get to another city, to a cousin who'd offered help, but her money had run out. "I'm not lazy," Kat said fiercely, as if Thomas had accused her. "I worked 2 jobs before Emma came. I'm not looking for a handout. I couldn't let her freeze. I didn't know what else to do. I thought if we could just make it through the night, if I could just get us to somewhere warm." "You're incredibly brave," Thomas said. "And you're an excellent mother. Not every parent would sacrifice everything for their child. But Kat, you can't do this alone. You need help. And I'd like to offer some if you'll accept it." "Why?" Kat looked at him with those exhausted eyes. "Why would you help me? You don't know me. For all you know, I'm lying about everything. Because 3 years ago, my wife Laura died in a car accident. Maya was 3. And suddenly I was alone, trying to figure out how to be both parents to a grieving toddler while running a business. And you know what saved me? People who helped. My father, who came out of retirement to help with the company. My neighbor, who started a meal train. The teacher at Maya's preschool who stayed late when I was stuck in traffic. People helped because that's what people do, or what they should do." He leaned forward, his voice gentle. "I'm not trying to save you, Kat. I'm trying to help you save yourself." "There's a difference. Stay here for a few days. Rest. Take care of Emma. Let me make some calls to some people I know. A lawyer friend who does pro bono work. A social worker who can help you access resources. An employment counselor. Give yourself a chance to catch your breath and make a plan." "I don't do charity," Kat said, but her voice was wavering. "It's not charity. It's a hand up, not a handout. And frankly, Maya would never forgive me if I let you leave. She's already planning tomorrow's breakfast. Kat stayed. What was supposed to be a few days turned into a week, then 2. Thomas learned that she'd had 2 years of college before money ran out.